Hello and welcome to the options talk for Year 9 pupils on the subject of psychology. So the first question is, who am I? I'm Miss Player, I'm the head of psychology, also head of English. However, that's not an option subject, you have to take it. We have two teachers here for psychology, myself and Miss Spencer, who is in the science department. So the first question is, what is psychology and why should people be interested in taking it? I've put here a couple of questions on the board that we attempt to answer during our classes. So things like, what happens when somebody collapses on a bus? Would you go to help them? Does it matter who they are, what gender they are, what age they are? How would you react if a spider fell on your head? What would you do if the person you fancied, you saw their eyes dilate? Would that mean that they like you too? These are different questions that we do attempt to answer over the 2 years of the course. And we look at so many different aspects of life, both within our own societies, but also cultural differences as well. So the question here is, what sort of things do you have to study? Okay, so there is a lot of subject content in psychology. There are two papers, they are both worth 50%, so they're exactly the same, and both papers are out of 100 marks. Each topic is therefore 25 marks. And it's important that pupils are aware that some topics may also have questions that come up in other areas. So the first paper is called Cognition and Behaviour, and we look at different topics such as memory, perception, development and research methods. We start with memory, really useful to try and improve how we can recall key events, especially if we're heading towards our GCSE exams. But we also look at things like eyewitnesses as well. What happens when somebody thinks they've seen a particular person commit a crime, but somebody else who's witnessed the same thing has got a completely different viewpoint of who that person is. We will also be thinking about false memories, alien abductions, supermarkets where pupils have been lost, loads of different things about how memory can and cannot be twisted and changed. We will also look at perception, where we think about things like visual illusions. What happens when two people see the same visual illusion, but one perhaps sees a very old lady and the other sees a young woman? What's happening? Why do different brains react in different ways? Then we will look at development, which is a topic that thinks about how babies through to teenagers actually develop over time, and how it is that some people have things like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset when it comes to education. Finally, on this paper, we look at research methods. The pupils will hopefully get the opportunity to create their own experiment, run that experiment, and then use all the information they've gained from that in order to answer lots of questions to do with maths and to do with science, but also have the ability to evaluate their own work. We find this is the best way to teach research methods, which is absolutely vital for all areas of psychology. So that's paper one. Paper two is about social context and behaviour. We start with social influence. Social influence is a topic which most pupils really enjoy. Why do we obey people in authority? Why are you sitting listening to me now just because I'm standing here with a tag around my neck suggesting that I'm a teacher? Why do people obey people with a clipboard in front of them telling them to go one particular way? What is it about the person who is telling everybody what to do that gives them that authority? We also look at conformity. Why do pupils at King's School, most of the time, wear their uniform perfectly? Why do pupils sit and listen? Why do they conform when the fire bell goes? What is going on in terms of the social influence of other people on them? But we also look at when people don't go to the aid of others, thinking about situations where people have made cries for help and eventually have died from their injuries, but no one has gone to help them. A fascinating topic area. We look at language, thought and communication, which is what we're actually currently doing at the moment. Think about how different cultures react to different things, how they use language to understand the world, but also thinking about things like non-verbal communication. What can you learn about me because of the way I am standing, the way I'm gesticulating and my facial expressions? We look at the brain and neuropsychology. This is your main sort of science area. This is why we do ask for people to have a level 6 or above prediction in science. The brain and neuropsychology also looks at things like CAT scans and PET scans. Where are the issues within the brain? How can we pinpoint them? And when we found them, we can then move on to psychological problems to think about how we can help people who've got problems in certain parts of their brains. Things like, leaning on to things like depression, stress, anxiety, schizophrenia, and those sorts of areas where I think most people who take psychology are taking it because of psychological problems. Okay, they want to find out about how these sorts of areas of our lives can impact us and what we can do to help people that we know who are suffering. So that's the course content. But of course, need to think about why take GCSE psychology. There's so many options, subjects, why this particular one? I would say, yes, it is a tough subject. There's a lot to learn. Having said that, if you're interested in going into something like the police, law, medicine or teaching, this subject will give you a wide cross-section of skills to use. There's a lot of evaluation, a lot of class discussion and thinking about the wider world as well. However, don't just take my word for it. I've got a couple of pupils here who would like to explain to you why they think you should take psychology.
I'm Daisy and I take GCSE psychology. It's a really fun, enjoyable subject and it's also really interesting and teaches you a lot about the world around us. It's a really content-heavy subject, but when you're interested and when you enjoy it, it's really easy to keep up. And it's a great subject that goes alongside other options like health and social care, triple science and sociology.
Hi, I'm Charlie, and in psychology you have the opportunity to learn a vast number of things about the brain, the world and the people in it. For those of you who may be worried about the potential amount of written work that comes along with psychology, don't, because there are many different ways that the teachers help us to learn and digest the information in a wider context such as everyday life.
Thank you very much for watching our little video today. If you've got any more questions about psychology, please come and speak to me or send me an email. And if you are worried about the course content or want to know information from the pupils themselves, again, they were always willing to have a chat with you and talk you through the course. Thank you.